Fucking bastards. Where's that fucking shit? Hello, everybody. How you all doing? So I'm just sorting stuff out. Thought I'd do a live stream earlier in the day. I'm trying to mix them up at the minute. Trying to do a few in the afternoon, some maybe late morning, just to catch different people from my audience. Because when I do them at 8 o'clock at night, some people don't always get to see the live streams or take part in them. So if I stagger them throughout the day at different times when I'm doing the live streams, that means I can include everybody in my audience and everybody gets to interact. So that's why I'm doing it at the minute. But yeah, thanks for coming along and listening in. We've got some interesting things to talk about. The thing is, right, I think with live streams, the best thing about them is that it enables me to talk about lots of different subjects without having to make individual videos about every single thing that's going off in the country at the minute. Because to be honest with it, there is so much going off at the minute. I would literally be making videos every 5 minutes. I really would. And unfortunately, some people, their attention span is very, very limited. They won't watch videos over 5 minutes. I used to do long form videos where I'd take a video and I would just break it down and analyze it. Unfortunately, those types of videos don't get many views because we're in the era now of everything's got to be fast. You've got to be fast. You know, get all the information into a 5-minute video. But live streams, people seem to love live streams because they're more interactive. And that's why I like them as well. And like I said, eventually, when I get a better laptop, we'll be able to bring those videos into the live stream and we'll be able to watch them together and discuss them. But for the time being, we'll have to make do with just showing images and stuff like that until we get to that point. But obviously, we're going to have to talk about this today because this is a big piece of news today. The two gentlemen, and I'm being very polite when I call them gentlemen, the two gentlemen that assaulted the police officers at Manchester Airport are up for sentencing today. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, I'm not going to speculate or anything like that, but it'll be very, very interesting to see what happens. I know a lot of people have got opinions on this, and a lot of people, from what I've been saying on social media, are saying that unless they get some substantial sentences, I think it's going to prove that the justice system is broken. Now, we all know that the justice system is completely and utterly broken. I think they will have to really give a harsh sentence to send a message. Just to this is the justice system's opportunity to reassure people that, yeah, if you break the law, we are going to put you in prison regardless of who you are. If they don't, if they get some a substantial sentence but it's suspended, then I think a lot of people who haven't already lost faith in the judicial system, I've lost faith in the judicial system, will all lose faith in it. They will. They'll think, what the hell? Hello, Cockmeister. Afternoon, Dave and all. How's it going? I'm great, thank you. Everybody knows my name now. Everybody knows my name because I got doxed in a live stream. I've had to show it. Well, that's a long story. And we're not going to get into that here. But yes, I was doxed in a live stream that I was doing. A lefty shouted out my full name and where he thought I worked. So in order to expose him, I've had to kind of expose myself a little bit, which was worth it, because now on X, my X account, go and follow me on Twitter, X, Dark Knight DA. It's in the banner going around. Go follow me. on there, go and follow me on Twitter, because should this channel ever get taken down, that's where my beachhead, that's where my fallback position is going to be Twitter. I've only got 539 followers on Twitter at the minute, so I could really do with the majority of people who subscribe to my YouTube going over there and giving that account some love, because it does boost me up as well on there. But yeah, these two people on the screen right now, this is going to be a deciding moment in our judicial history, this particular case. Because I think we all know the system is two-tiered. We all know this. We've seen it with our own eyes. It doesn't matter what the establishment says. It doesn't matter what the police say. It doesn't matter what judges say. We know the system is two-tier. We can observe it with our own eyes, with what they do with different cases and different people. Different people from different demographics and different groups get treated completely different to other people. You only got to look at Lucy Connolly, Wayne O'Rourke, Peter Lynch, people like that who were fast-tracked through the courts in what I would call find me a man and I'll find you the crime mentality that we had last year. When it compared to a case like this, where these people have been walking around in relative freedom after what they did, which I would consider more serious because it was actually a physical attack rather than just hurty words on the internet, kind of shows you and exposes what the system values and what it doesn't value. I'm being very careful in what I say. James Rooney, X is age verifying too as well. There are ways around it. I think people have been telling me, don't take this as gospel, people have been telling me that if you have the basic account, the free account, that's when you're getting age restricted because you haven't got much protection. But if you pay a monthly fee like I do to get verified, you've already provided your identity, so you don't get these identity checks all the time. And I'd much rather have Twitter have my personal information than the government. Plus, I think some people have gotten around it. It's not worked for everybody. Some people have changed their region on their Twitter to the USA, and that's actually stopped the age restriction for some people. Some people are using VPNs. Even the people with VPNs, it's not working the whole time with VPNs either. But yeah, there we go. So what are your guys' thoughts on all of this? Maybe we should bet on the length of sentence. I reckon less than 4 years. So 4 to 8 months. Yeah, I would say that as well. I would even go as far that I think that they want to set things off in this country. I really do. So I reckon they'll probably give them 4 years and it will be a suspended sentence. I reckon that's what they'll do. They'll suspend it. Because let's take in consideration the Sentencing Council brought in those new laws where they were actively going to discriminate against white people and say that people of minorities will get a lesser prison sentence than people that were native Brits. And obviously the government told them to ignore that advice, but they're not going to do it. They're just going to go and do it. Dan Wootton got restricted on Twitter. Well, that would make more sense because he's much more of a high-profile person than anybody else. So that kind of would make sense. Guys, they're only charged with ABH. Curry something like a maximum of six months in jail. I think it's the added sentence though of an attack on an attack on an emergency services worker, which carries a 2-year prison sentence. So it all adds up with all the different offences they've actually committed. It's not just they've committed ABH. It's not just they've committed attack on a emergency worker, all these different things they're charged with will mount up and will should result in a much harsher prison sentence. I would expect them to get a higher prison sentence than just 3 years in prison. Because if that's the case, then it's an absolute joke, our judiciary. So that was that. I'm not going to speculate too much on that because they're still going on about it. It wasn't. I don't know what. It won't. Yeah, it won't. Definitely. Yeah, it won't. I think we all know that they're going to be extremely lenient. Hard to make GBH stick when only a few blows were involved. There might be other factors involved. Steve might be able to come in on this. The fact that they went for an officer's firearm as well might carry a stiffer sentence with that as well. Going for an armed officer's firearm. But like I said, I don't put much faith in our judiciary. I really don't. You know, Steve's got the maximum for ABH is 5 years, but remember, it's ×2. Yeah, exactly. They attacked the male officer. Plus, they've got another offence as well where they attacked that other person beforehand. Was it in Costa Coffee? They assaulted him as well. So that could carry an even bigger. The judge could say, "Yeah, you attacked 3 people that day." So it kind of, I don't want to speculate too much, but it kind of proves that they weren't provoked. They were already being violent even before the police even got involved to people. I don't hold much hope out because didn't the judge say something like they were going to put a good character reference in for them with the jury. It's like good character reference. So I'm not holding much hope out for this judge, to be honest with you. Oh yeah, totally. They will totally turn a blind eye to it because they're not concerned with violent criminals. And this is the thing about extremist socialist, communist governments. They're more paranoid about leaders arising that are going to come and try and challenge them for their power. That's why you're seeing people like James Harvey being pressured by the police because they're trying to discourage people that are becoming leaders, that are rising up and that are challenging the establishment on what they're doing in this country. They're more interested in that thing than tackling violent crime in this country. They don't care about the people of this country. It doesn't affect them. They've got their security, they've got their personal security. None of this is ever going to affect them. None of this. So they don't care about the people of this country. All they care about is the people that are rising up, that could challenge them for their power, that could dissent, that could run a rebellion against the government, because they're absolutely shit scared at them. They're paranoid because they've had all these advisors telling them, saying, you are getting really close to civil war in this country. Your actions are provoking the people. You need to step back from the brink, but they're not doing it. They just keep doubling down and doubling down on the things that they're doing. So the government is terrified. So this sort of thing with these two gentlemen, again, I use that term very loosely when I call them gentlemen. I'm being polite for YouTube's sake. I can't repeat what I'd like to call them, but there you go. Anyway, that's enough on that one. So this is another topic, right? Did anybody watch the interview that the press conference that Starmer and President Trump did together? Because this was amazing. The way Starmer was squirming, he really didn't like what was happening in this press conference at all. His body language was saying it all. He was really uncomfortable. And this is how this man should feel at every Prime Minister's question time. The speaker in the House of Commons should demand that he answer questions. He shouldn't be in there and given a soft ride. This is supposedly the leader of our country, and he should be held accountable. He should be answering for his actions. You can't just go into a Prime Minister's question time and not answer the questions. That's not how this country is supposed to be run. We all know that. But the way President Trump made Keir Starmer feel in this press conference is exactly how he should feel at every Prime Minister's question time. This is what the opposition party should be doing to him at every Prime Minister's question time. He should be squirming in his seat. All of them, all of the Labour front bench should be squirming in their seat, being asked the hard questions. But they're not, because Kemi Badenoch is weak. The whole opposition government, the Tories, they're weak, very, very weak. And that's why these people are getting away with everything they're getting away with. Because there's literally nobody of any value holding them to account. What is the Reform Party doing? Only thing I ever see Richard Tice talking about is net zero. The only thing that Lee Anderson ever really does is just make off the cuff, sarcastic remarks. Keir Starmer got humiliated when President Trump called out Sadiq Khan, definitely. And then Keir Starmer was forced to defend the undefensible, wasn't he? That's the whole point. He had to defend Sadiq Khan, who's at this point is indefensible. What was it today? Stabbings. There were some stabbings in London. 2 people are dead. I saw that Billy Moore, he posted a video. Apparently in Manchester, Piccadilly Gardens, 4 people were stabbed today in Manchester. Our towns and cities are getting more and more dangerous by the day. And it's not because the native Brits are becoming more violent. It's because of the people we're importing. Our towns and cities are literally flooded with them. Stuart Brown, if Imran was sitting as a judge, they get absolute discharge. Yeah, definitely. See, me and Steve will be able to attest to this, right? When I was a kid in the 80s and 90s in this country, a stabbing anywhere in the country was big news because it was rare. Very, very rare. It was very rare anybody got stabbed in this country. And it was usually due to being drunk or outside a pub. That's usually where you'd see a stabbing. There was none of this racially motivated or gang-related stabbing that you see now, mass stabbings. But now it's just become desensitized. It happens every single day. It doesn't even make the news. It's like people in this country think that gun crime doesn't exist in this country. It does exist in this country. I've got friends on the doors in Sheffield, and they tell me there's literally gunshots every weekend in nightclubs in the city centre. You just don't hear about it. So look at some more of these comments. If they bring these types into my town, they won't be here long, I can assure you. Yeah. Import from the third world, ended up in a third world country. Exactly. Import the third world, become the third world. I remember going to Birmingham on the train as a teenager in the 90s and feeling safe. Exactly. Yep, that was when Stephen Lawrence got so big, because it was an absolute rarity for anybody to be stabbed. Because why was that in the 80s and 90s? Because we had a legitimate police force that did its job, that was a deterrent against crime. There was no internet. All they had to focus on was actual crime on the streets. So it was safe to walk the streets. I remember walking around my local neighborhood and the local police officer patrolling the local neighborhood. You didn't have to phone for the police. You could literally walk up to his house because there were police houses with a police station at the top of our street where you could just literally go to them and say, yeah, there's something going on. And they would come. It's all changed now. Steve will tell you that something happened. I'm not sure when it was. Steve did tell me at one point in the comments. They stopped doing foot patrols. They stopped doing foot patrols, and that has been a detriment to society because it's not only the police's job to detect crime and catch criminals, it's also to be a deterrent. If you're not on the streets, you're not a deterrent. People don't feel safe. Now, I lived in my last house for nearly 4 years, and I can count on one hand the amount of times I saw a police officer walk past our house, and that's a main road. No foot patrols. Foot patrols were key in making people feel safe because they knew that people were walking around in your neighborhood protecting. This is back when the police were, everybody played cops and robbers. Everybody wanted to be the police. When I was growing up, everybody wanted to be the police. Cop shows on TV were very, very popular. The police were seen as the good guys, people you could trust. But nowadays, it's the opposite. You watch channels like Crime Bodge and others, and you watch all the interactions that the auditors have with the police, and you can see the quality has dropped dramatically since the quality in police officers has dropped dramatically. There was the instance with three of them actually, two young women and a podgy policewoman who were trying to arrest a man because he and his son looked through the car window of their patrol car. Now, instead of de-escalating the situation, they attempted to arrest him. And one of the police, Steve will probably know this, he's probably seen the video. One of the police women blindly sprays pepper spray over the fence, spraying the gentleman's young son in the eyes, but also spraying the other two police officers in the face with the pepper spray. And you look at them and you just think, you look like you're cosplaying police officers. You look like your real job is in a nail salon or an eyelash salon with the way they were looking. They were fully made up, looked like they were going to go out to a nightclub, but wearing a police uniform. They didn't have a clue. You could tell they were totally and utterly incompetent. I know a girl who joined shortly after me, and the AAC said, it isn't like the Sweeney. All right, so look at this. Right, so that guy who smashed in the face in Epping. Yeah, exactly. Smashed in the face in Epping. Remember the guy with the shield where he was just, yeah, fair enough. He was shouting at the police. And in that instance, the police officer did have a right to use reasonable force to move him back. He didn't have the right to smash him in the face with his riot shield, though. A proportionate response to that would be to reach out his arm and just push him back, like we're taught to do with a door supervisor course. You put the safe, the 2 meter distance between you and him. Say, excuse me, sir, step back, please. 2 meters, thank you. That's all that he needed to do, not smash him in the face with the riot shield. I heard that he's been nicked twice. Got to agree with this as well, Mark. Definitely, the police have picked their side. I see the conversations taking place all the time with people and the police, that the police are stood in the line. And I have to keep saying this in my live streams. Steve will testify to this as well. The police are trained to ignore you. They don't care about what you're saying to them. They will ignore you. Most of the time, won't answer your questions unless they're police liaison officers. And then they'll just give you the party line of the police force. They're not going to admit that they agree with you or they don't agree with you, even though we know they're heavily politicized, even though at Black Lives Matter protests, they will take the knee and show allegiance to that particular ideology, even though at Pride events, they'll doll themselves up in rainbow flags and wear rainbow face paint. But when it comes to the Patriot movement and the people legitimately scared about what is happening in this country and legitimately scared for their children and their loved ones, they won't side with them. And there's a reason for that, because within the police force, it's heavily politicized. And if you don't show an allegiance to a certain ideology, which is far left identity politics and wokeness, you will not rise through the ranks. And from what I've heard, they will find ways of getting you out of the force because they don't want you rising through the ranks. Because anybody of that persuasion, anybody that's right wing within the police force, they want to root them out and remove them because they see those people as a challenge to the power structure within the police. That's why all the police chiefs are woke. They're far left. Look at that police chief. I think he was assistant police chief the other day. The one that was, I did a video about it. All he did was constantly talk about communities. He mentioned communities so many times in his speech. And when they say communities, they're not talking about British or English communities. They're talking about a certain demographic when they mention communities, because there is only one community in this country now that carries favour with the police, and it's not the native Brits. And we all know who that is, don't we? Peter Bethley, insert correct spelling, should be in charge of the police. Yep. The whole structure just needs sorting out. OT is like the army, where you have a partner and you have to shout at them in the face 2 inches. Yeah. We literally, right, our rules of engagement in Iraq that we had when I was doing private security, because you get briefed on it, was rules of engagement. You can't engage unless they're carrying a weapon or unless you suspect them of planting IEDs. That they were the rules of engagement that we had. But I literally had people throwing rocks at our head and spitting at us. We used to have to wear the face masks and stuff like that because they would walk up to us and spit at us. But you just had to stand there and take it, especially if you were on guard duty outside. You just had to stand there and take it. And it's the same as a security officer as well. You have to stand there and take it. You can't escalate things. You have to always de-escalate everything. So security officers on the door, sometimes I see them, and it's like the security I see on the doors of the hotels are just not trained very well at all. They're not trained very well at all. They don't know the rules. They don't know that people can actually film in public and stuff. I watched Ryan Rampage video the other day. I forget which one it was. There was a thoroughfare through past an illegally run hotel. He was on the pavement, and the security guards were coming out and telling him, "Yeah, you can't film on the pavement." There was another instance of it the other day with DG. Is it DGE Media? He was on a public footpath. The security came out. They were telling him he couldn't film. Actively trying to snatch his camera. Same with the other one. DJE Media, that's it, Steve. Yeah. like I said, I have to be very, very careful what I say about stuff in Iraq, but pretty much the rules of engagement. I'm not going to go into how stupid things got sometimes with that. Literally, if they put their weapon down, you couldn't engage them because they weren't armed. We haven't got any weapons anymore. We just put his guns down. Crazy stuff. I've heard some from my mates who were out in Afghanistan. I never went to Afghanistan. I heard stuff from them about the stupid rules of engagement that they had because they were trying to win hearts and minds. Crazy. Things that wouldn't have flown in World War II. My granddad's war stories were insane. The things that he did. They used to execute SS soldiers on sight. They didn't give a shit. I think at one point he said they had standing orders that any SS troops were to be killed. Not so nowadays. Right, I think we've covered that one a little bit. So obviously, right, we're going to talk about this a little bit now. So I want to get people's opinions on this because this is interesting. This seems to be a bit I don't understand why it's controversial. It's not controversial to me. But this is the aftermath of a lefty goblin allegedly attacked Patriot Tommy Robinson and was forced to take him out. Now, I've seen the video footage of this where Tommy's walking about. He's quite obviously got a cut on his forehead. And from what I can tell, I was looking at the guy on the ground, and to me, it looks like he's got his hood up with a balaclava on. That's what it looks like to me. And so you've got to think logically about this. Tommy Robinson's just been out of prison. He's on license. He's probably got special bail conditions. So he's not going to go up to somebody randomly and antagonize them and knock them out randomly, is he? From the character I know of Tommy Robinson, that's not something that he would do. He wouldn't jeopardize going back to prison and not seeing his kids. So I'm just going on my gut feeling about this, that some far left goon goblin, like they've been called here, decided to try and start something with Tommy Robinson. They got a mask on, they got balaclava on, and they went up to try and do something. Obviously, he's got a wound on his forehead, so it looks like there was an altercation, which the lefty lost miserably. He was left flat out on the floor, knocked out by Tommy Robinson, allegedly by Tommy Robinson. Conveniently, though, the video is cut only showing the aftermath. It's not showing the before what happened, which is suspect to me, very suspect, because you would think if they got definitive proof that Tommy Robinson had gone up and actually provoked somebody and knocked them out without any due course or any reason for doing so, they would show the whole video. But it's been cut to specifically show just the aftermath of what happened, which is highly suspicious to me. It really is. I think once the entire video is shown, because they'll probably put in a freedom of information for the CCTV, or the whole footage will get released. Now, the police treat it like there's been some kind of murder. They've got forensic teams down there looking at it. To me, I would say it was just a straight cut, open shut case of self-defense. Tommy took care of business. He didn't stand around, wait around to see what was going on. Took him out, got out of there. To be honest with you, I'm going to show you this. This is what he needs to do. He really does. Because I think cases like this are just going to keep continuing now. He's under threat when he's on his own. I know Fred, Charlie Veach's private security guy, has reached out to Tommy and said, if you ever need me, call me. You shouldn't have to face this. You shouldn't have to deal with this, which is right. But in the meantime, I really think, I'm going to switch my camera on a minute. I really think that Tommy Robinson will get rid of that. So that's a bit. We'll get rid of that for the time being so I can show you full screen. It needs to get one of these. It needs to get a body cam. You can turn that on when it's fully charged. You can turn this on and it will record for 13 hours. So when you go from venue to venue, you wear this, and from venue to venue, you record everything on your journey. That way, you've always got video evidence of everything that's happened to you on your journey. And then you don't have to rely on public CCTV or the goodwill of people who are filming it around you. You've always got your own personal account of things. And your hands-free, you can put it on your top, your hands-free, and you can deal with the situation with the body cam. And the beauty of these is if you put it on continuously recording loop, it records the first 5 minutes before you even switch it on. So what it does is once you switch it on, it adds those 5 minutes to the beginning of the recording, so you get everything in context. Even if your reaction time's down, the minute you switch it on, it adds those 5 minutes to the beginning of the recording. These are invaluable to doormen. A lot of doormen are wearing these now to cover their own backs if they have to defend themselves on the door, and I don't blame them. And me personally, this is just me, because even though I get death threats, even though some of the death threats I just dismiss because it's just nutters on the internet talking macho on the internet, it doesn't mean I'm not going to protect myself. So I recently purchased stab-proof vest. I think it's essential for anybody going around to Piccadilly Gardens now in Manchester. You need to be wearing a stab-proof vest, and that includes Charlie Beach, because even though you've got security, there's always that off chance that somebody's going to slip through, and it only takes a second with a knife and it's game over. I would seriously advise people just to go with those precautions. Even auditors, when you go to these pro-Palestine marches, you don't know what these people are carrying. You don't know what they're capable of. I would highly recommend that now, definitely. But anyway, this is what somebody put up on here, and this is true, right? Reminder: Toy Robinson has innumerable threats to his life, has been attacked previously, and is suffering from mentally following being isolated in solitary confinement for months. He clearly is on tenterhooks, probably suffering from PTSD, in my opinion. Not just that, he's perfectly within his rights to defend himself if some nutter approaches him with intent, with a balaclava on, and intends him to do harm. You can preemptively strike somebody if you believe your life is in danger. That is covered within the reasonable force self-defense laws in this country. He said he had a fight with a door in London, real podcast, but it could also be true he was attacked and doesn't want to talk about it yet. Exactly. I think he's keeping his powder dry on that one because he knows the police are probably going to investigate. If he goes on social media and starts giving his account of events, it could prejudice anything that he later relies on for his defense. So at this point, he'd be wise not to say too much about that incident. If he goes on social media posting videos, it could look like he was bragging about what he did. So he's got to be very, very careful in that respect. To be honest with you, he's probably making the right decision not speaking about it until he's got legal advice, because it does look like the police are actually investigating what happened. And we all know they will use any excuse to put him back in prison before this free speech event in September. It's sad, but it's true. And the thing is, right, I didn't do a morning walk video this morning. I was thinking about what topics to talk about, and to be honest with you, there were just far too many. And people have to realise that we don't live in a free country anymore. We don't live in a country with free speech. We don't live in a country with free expression. We live in a country with the illusion of those things. We don't have democracy anymore. It's just the illusion of democracy in this country. And that's the environment we're living in. The environment you have to get into your mind and think is that this is an occupied country. We're living in an occupied country. We've been occupied, and the occupying force is hostile. That's the way you have to treat the government at the minute. You have to be smart about the things that you put on the internet. You can't say inflammatory things because they will use these nebulous laws to incriminate you and arrest you. I know a lot of people are disappointed that in my morning videos, I'm giving advice about people staying safe and being peaceful at these protests. Some of these people think that these protests should be violent, and no, the protests shouldn't be violent, because when you go violent, you're playing straight into the state's hands. They want you to be violent. That's what they were trying to do at Epping. They were trying to provoke the protesters there into being, what? StreamYard has lost access to our YouTube account. Vindicated. Don't worry, we've got you covered. Don't know what's happened there. Oh dear. I've just had a. I'll try and take a screenshot of that and put it up on the screen. Well, that's worrying. Apparently, they've lost contact with my YouTube account. So, is my YouTube account okay? Is it still up? I'll try and take a screenshot of it, and I'll show you on screen right now what that is. Right, we'll take a screenshot of it. So this is what I'm getting on the screen at the minute. I'll try and do that. I don't know what's going on here. Look. There we go. Right. Well, does anybody message me and tell me that I'm still live? Because I don't even know if I'm still live at this minute. It's telling me that I've lost contact with the channel. Well, that's definitely weird. Right. Put this up on the screen. Image file. No, there's no comments coming through. It's all gone dead. Definitely no comments coming through now. Alright, I'll click that to connect to the destination. Don't know what's happening here.